Welcome to Tales from Flat Space. I'm LJ Spencer, your author and narrator. Just know that the novels in this podcast may contain content that could be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. So, this is part 6 Messages, Chapter 52 Nemetona. Syslog, arrival at Kahlo Station. Syslog, accessing Kahlo Station database, locating Poe. Syslog, picketing avatar. Syslog, begin human readable log. The room I picketed into was dark, with 2 humans in a bed. One, who had a bald head, sat up and looked at me with anger on their face. The other groaned and muttered something. "Go back to sleep, David," they said. "There's just an unexpected visitor. I'll deal with this." David groaned again, rolled over, pulling the blanket over his head. They patted him on the shoulder gently, got out of bed, and put on a bathrobe and slippers, then stood in front of my avatar with their hands on their hips, looking up at me. "I assume you have some way of masking yourself and making it so you can't be force picketed. Otherwise, Mama Frida would have already dealt with you," they said quietly but firmly, sounding much older than they actually were. "The elders woke me, and I warned Frida right before you jumped in, or you'd have guards coming down on your head right now." They folded their arms across their chest. "Well, you must be Nemetona. And while I understand that you want to talk to Eli as soon as possible, you could have waited until station morning. This is incredibly rude to me, my partner, and Frida, especially since you're not the only person I will be seeing today." I realized they were right, but their message had been so shocking to me I was sure that they were lying. Carol said I could trust them, and while I knew Carol thought it was true, I didn't fully believe her either. I stared back at Poe. "I had to know you weren't lying to me about Eli. I've had so many humans hurt me, it's hard to trust any of you." "I see. But you couldn't have contacted Frida and asked her opinion?" When I didn't answer, they stared at me for a long moment. "You really don't trust others much, do you? Not even your siblings?" "Not at the moment." They sighed. "All right, fine. Go wait in the other room while I get dressed. I recommend you apologize profusely to Frida while you do so." I stared at them. They raised an eyebrow as if to say, "Well?" "Yes, Poe," I said, and did as they asked. Syslog, connection with Frida established. "How dare you just pick it aboard my station without asking, and into my child and captain's quarters? Who do you think you are? Father will be livid. You may be my cousin and part of Father's family, but never has any other AI been so inconsiderate to me like this." "I'm sorry, Frida." "Sorry? Your lucky post said you were coming right before you rudely picketed over. What's wrong with you?" "What's wrong with me? It's your Poe that sent me a message from my former captain who is undeniably dead. His DNA is at the bottom of the ocean on Olympia. I've had too many humans hurt me to trust them fully. How was I supposed to know that Poe wasn't yet another lying human trying to get at me for being defective AI or wanting to cut me up for parts? I had to see them for myself." "Defective? Parts? What are you talking about?" "Syslog, sending personal logs and data." "Oh, I see. I am still angry with you, cousin, but I accept your apology. I'm not the therapist that Mitty is, but if you want to talk about this, I'd be willing. You are not the only one to have lost people they've cared for." Syslog, receiving historical data. Syslog, data analysis complete. "I really am sorry, Frida. I had no idea. Do you want me to leave now? No. Poe said to keep you here. They will be talking to you in the Elder's room shortly. When you're done with that, then you should return your avatar to your own ship. Understood. I'm sorry. Truly, I've not been myself since. Out of all of our family, I truly understand, Nemetona. Go with Poe, then we'll talk. I think you should apologize to your new captain, too. Carol is a good woman and a good soldier. I'm guessing you don't fully distrust her if you've kept yourself open to her. Yes, you're right. Go with Poe now, Nemetona. Like I said, we'll talk more later. Syslog. Resume human readable log. My avatar nodded to Frida as Poe walked into the room. They were wearing comfortable clothes and station shoes. I stood up. All right, follow me, they said, with a sigh, and walked out the door into the hallway. It's actually good that you came to me in this form. It'll make it easier for the spirits to talk to you privately. I'll need to interpret for you since your programming doesn't allow for direct communication. As a priest, I will keep all of what is said to you or what you say to them confidential. Unless I think you're going to harm me, yourself, the elders, or someone else. I ask that you not touch any of the roots unless spirit allows it, as your tech can disrupt communication. If you want to speak to the elders or spirits again after this, you will go through the normal process. I deal with a lot of people in a day, and this type of visitation takes a lot of energy out of me. While I know you don't need to sleep, I am human and need regular, uninterrupted rest. They had been talking as we entered the tram station not too far from their quarters. We stopped at the end of the line near the maintenance bay, got out, and took a lift to the level closest to Frida's outer hull. At the end of the long hallway was a large set of metal doors with a red light above it. Poe pressed the palm plate next to the door, and the light began to blink yellow. We have to wait for the atmosphere to stabilize. At night, the elders who live here receive a higher oxygen content to mimic the oxygen they usually have on their own ships. Unfortunately, that oxygen level is toxic to humans. I see, I said. Poe seemed much calmer than I thought they'd be, given my behavior. Frida was right, and I shouldn't have done what I did. Poe? Yes? I really am sorry. Given what Eli already told me about what you went through, I suppose that's understandable, they said. I've been through more since before Eli died. Poe nodded and the light above the door turned green. I see. Let's talk more afterwards, okay? Okay, I said, and followed them inside. The light was low, but similar in composition to the light of Earth. They took off their shoes, leaving them near the door, then walked towards the tangle of trees and roots that made up 2/3 of the room. There was a long table and chairs on the clear part of the floor, along with several cushions and stools along one wall. Poe climbed up to a part of the roots that they were able to sit on like a bench. The forest room was similar to the pod trees of the ancestors. That realization made me angry, since it was the ancestors' technology that took Eli away from me. Hey, you can come closer, Nemetona, Poe called out from their perch on the roots. I stepped further into the room, close to the roots without touching them. Poe closed their eyes for a moment, and then there was a rustling sound. A figure slowly formed from inside the roots. It looked around, then walked towards me. The gait was so much like Eli's that I unconsciously stepped back. The leaf form stopped and turned to Poe, seeming frustrated. Poe nodded, then said, "This is Eli, Nemetona. He wants to talk to you, but he's worried you won't accept it, that it's him. You can talk to him as you would anyone else, and I'll repeat exactly what he says." When did you become my captain? I asked. The leaf form turned back to me, and I thought I could see the impression of a smile in the leaves.
The day you showed me the Wolf Rayet star, I cried because it was so beautiful. I'd asked you to show me your favorite place to go, and you were surprised because none of your other captains had ever asked you.
I stared at Poe, who was just watching us. There was no possible way that they would know about that moment, as I hadn't shared it with anyone except Carol. I went to my knees, wanting to yell or shout or something equally human, but instead I asked, Why? Why did you leave me? I could have taken care of you. The leaf Eli knelt in front of me, then reached out to touch my cheek.
I'm sorry, Nemetona. I know you could have taken care of me, but then I would become dependent on you in a way that wouldn't have been good for either of us. I didn't know who I was anymore, and the Eli you had grown to love was gone. I would have grown to resent you, and I didn't want that to happen between us. I wish.
He hung his head.
I wish I had handled it better, or had been more whole when I left the machine, or.
I heard movement, and Poe was rubbing their eyes on their sleeve. I turned back to the leaf Eli. Why did you kill yourself, Eli? Why didn't you accept help? Leaf Eli shook his head.
I was broken in a way I can't explain even to you. In my head, I didn't know if I was an ancestor or human. Maybe I was neither. I felt wrong. I was exhausted emotionally and physically. I could feel I was dying, and I didn't want to prolong the agony of it for Carla and Mandy or anyone else.
He paused.
And that day, the Dark Mother called to me.
I blinked. The Dark Mother of the ancestors? He nodded.
She's also an elder.
Poe cocked their head as if listening to another voice. Leaf Eli looked at them with a confused posture. Poe held up their hand.
Sorry, one moment. The Dark Mother doesn't always talk to me, and it's always a little confusing when she does.
They said.
She wants you to know that she is sorry that she took Eli from you.
They looked puzzled.
I think they didn't anticipate the damage that carrying the empathetic data would have on him.
Leaf Eli nodded enthusiastically.
Eli says that the Dark Mother told him the same thing when they gave him the choice
Choice,
to go on or to stay and work with them.
he said.
I chose to stay since I know you'll need my help for what's coming. Listen, you'll need to go and help Mercury, Tony. You're the only one who'll be able to. I'm not sure when, but the elders said you'd be called when it was time. The elders will give the Mercury crew help, but you and Loki are the only ships that will be able to reach them fast enough.
I shook my head. Why should I help humans? You hurt me. The humans on Earth dissected my avatar. My former captains all hurt me. Why should I help? Leaf Eli was shocked and stared at me for a long moment, then hung his head.
I'm sorry I hurt you, Tony. I'll always regret having to hurt you, more than you'll ever be able to know. But you have humans with you now who care about you.
He looked back at Poe.
Poe needs to rest, Tony, but please believe me that you're not alone. Please don't push those that care about you away, my love, including your siblings. Doing that will hurt you more than you think. You are special, Tony. You are needed, and you need to be whole for the future.
He reached out and touched my cheek again.
I did love you with all my heart. I still love you. as much as I did Nelson. I am so sorry for everything that happened to us and to you.
The leaf form of Eli came apart, and the leaves fell into the roots. Instead of lying there, the roots absorbed the leaves until they all disappeared. I wished I could cry or rage or scream, but I also didn't want to do any of those things. I looked up from the floor at Poe, who had their head in their hands. To my surprise, they were sobbing. Are you okay? I asked quietly after a moment.
I will be, Tony. It's just that
They rubbed their hands over their head and took a deep breath.
his his emotions were extremely strong. I don't know what happened to you, but the regret and sadness Eli has about it.
Poe shook their head.
You two were that close?
I nodded. We were, but I don't understand what all these feelings are, Poe. I don't know what to do now. All these feelings are confusing. I can't forget anything because I'm an AI. I loved him so much and I wanted to be with him forever. But he was taken from me by the ancestors. The humans that have come onto my ship have always abandoned me in one way or another. That's why it's so hard to trust humans now. I don't want to be alone, but they always leave. What is wrong with me? Am I really that horrible? Poe came down off the roots, knelt in front of me, and took my hands.
I understand. More than you think. I was hurt by other humans too, and all my family and friends were taken by the insanity caused by the Elder's form of communication. All of the humans on the station died except for me. It was hard for me to trust the Elders when I figured out they were responsible for so much death. Trust takes time. It also takes other people to help you. At first, I only had Frida, then Marcia came, and now several others who are my friends and family that I know I can trust with my life. You have to let them in order to heal Nemetona. It's the only way you'll be able to come to terms with your loss and grief.
They yawned.
I'm sorry. I'd like to talk to you about this more, but it's time for us to leave this room. The elders need to finish their oxygen cycle, and I need to go back to bed.
I nodded and followed them out of the room, but I still felt a confusing mix of emotions that I just didn't understand. Poe stopped in front of the lift, waiting. I think I should go back to my ship, I said.
Yes, I'll see you tomorrow.
They asked. Will I be welcome?
Yes,
Said Frida.
but please contact me before you come over.
Poe smiled a sleepy smile. Frida doesn't stay mad long. The lift door opened.
We're friends, Tony, you and me. Frida and I have been through a lot too, and we understand how hard things can get. You're not alone, okay?
I nodded. They smiled.
Good night.
Good night, I replied as the lift door closed. Then I picketed back to the ship.
Carol. I paced the bridge while I waited for Tony's avatar to come back. Tony had blocked me out again while I was taking a nap as we reached Kahlo Station, then disappeared. Fucking hell, what the fuck is she doing? What's going on, Carol? Asked Derek, coming onto the bridge. I could hear you yelling down the hall. We're at Kahlo Station, but Tony's avatar is gone, and she's blocking me out again. She wanted to go over to the station as soon as we got here, but I told her it was station's night, so she'd have to wait. But did she listen to me? No, I said loudly. Derek's eyes went wide. Tony's avatar popped onto the bridge, interrupting my pacing.
Oh, hi, Carol.
She said, looking contrite. What the fuck were you thinking? The station AI must be pissed, I yelled. I think I'm gonna go get a snack. In the galley, said Derek, leaving the bridge quickly. I ignored him. Tony's face fell.
She is.
She said quietly. Anger cooled a little at her quiet reaction. I took a breath, then said, quieter this time. And you shut me out. I thought you weren't going to do that again.
I.
She started to say. The expression on her face went from sad to confused to angry in a matter of seconds.
It really was Eli, Carol. I wanted that for myself, but I had to know if Paul was lying to me first.
I sighed and sat in the captain's chair, putting my head in my hands. Tony, you could have waited,
I know. Frida said the same thing.
she said. Tony, don't you trust me? I thought we were okay after Olympia. I wiped my eyes and lifted my head. I tried to interpret her emotions from the micro movements I could see with my enhancements, but there was too much there. I took a breath and squeezed my eyes shut, trying not to cry. For fuck's sake, if you don't want me as your captain, just say so. When I opened my eyes again, Tony was staring at me in shock. After a few moments, she sank to the floor against the wall, looking defeated and confused. I don't know, she cried out in frustration. I wish I could cry like a human does. I wish I knew what all these feelings that I feel mean. I want to trust you, Carol. I want to let you in. I want. Tony blinked, staring at me for a moment, then continued, quieter this time.
Eli told me not to push you or the other humans or my siblings away, but I always feel like no one really understands me or even wants me around, especially now. I don't even know if I deserve anyone's kindness.
She frowned.
What if you get hurt and, like Eli, I can't save you? What if you find a lover and decide to leave? Humans always leave me, Carol. I don't understand why. I don't understand why so many of you can be so cruel one minute, then kind the next.
She leaned her head against the wall.
And now I've been changed by the ancestors, and there's a lot of programming inside me that I don't know what it does. I don't know what it could do to me, or if it'll make me do something to you by accident. Hell, I don't even know if I'm a good AI, a good person anymore. It just seemed easier to be angry, shut you out.
I didn't say anything. I didn't know exactly what to say. Tony looked so ashamed and lost it broke my heart. I got out of the chair, sat next to her on the floor, taking her hand. She looked down at our joined hands.
Why do you care about me?
She whispered.
I'm defective.
I took her hand in both of mine and shook my head. No, you're a survivor, Tony. Like me. We've both been through some shit. I took a deep breath. When I was a kid, my father was really strict and, from what I know now, abusive. He was an Aries officer, but he wasn't a stable person. I don't think my mom should have stayed with him. If she had told the authorities, they would have taken him before he actually physically hurt her badly enough for Aries to intervene. They tried to put him through therapy, but eventually they took him off station and I never saw him again. But I got into enough trouble as a kid trying to cope that Aries gave me a choice of either joining a station force or going to Summit for extensive therapy. I didn't want to leave my mom, so I became a Marine. I was okay through boot camp, but then, well, let's just say I got into more trouble. I realized I was becoming my father the day I yelled at my mom for something stupid. It came close to hitting her. I ended up at Summit anyway for about a year, and I'm glad I did. I know my temper is short and I can lash out, but I've learned not to do that anymore, and how to vent my anger appropriately. I took a deep breath and gave a low laugh. You're the first person from the survey side of the galaxy I've talked to about this. I don't really talk about that with anyone, really.
You don't?
I shook my head. Like you, I don't want people to think I'm a horrible person. I care about you, Tony, because we're a lot alike. We're both confused about life and trying to figure shit out. I thought I had a purpose when I met Loki, but when I came over that day to stop you from killing yourself, I knew, at the very least, that I needed to be your friend. Because I've been there. I know what it's like to be lonely.
I didn't know. I can't really see your memories unless you specifically let me. Your bots are different from Jack's.
Yeah, there's a lot I'm not proud of, I said, but whatever memories come, you can look at them and ask me about them, especially if they don't make sense. Tony nodded. We sat there holding hands for a long time. After a while, I asked, I'm curious, why didn't you give your avatar tear ducts?
I don't know. It wasn't in the specs that Hef had for avatars.
I laughed. Maybe you should upgrade those specs.
Is crying helpful?
I shrugged. Sometimes it can be messy, though. Creates a lot of mucus in the nasal passages of humans.
I'll think about it.
Tony paused.
When I was with the elders, Eli told me he had loved me as much as he had loved the former admiral, who had been his partner for decades.
I squeezed her hand. That's awesome, Tony. It's good to be loved.
It is? Is that why it hurts so much to remember him?
Yeah, grief is a bitch. We all go through it when people we care about leave or die. Didn't you grieve for your first captain when she died?
I thought I did, but this is different.
Well, yeah, I suppose it would be since you were in love with Eli. He wasn't just your captain, I said.
That makes sense.
She said. Suddenly, Tony's mind opened to mine again, and the emotions that were there were complex, including her feelings towards me. I just held her hand and let it wash over me. She sent me the recording she had made of the conversation she had had with the elder version of Eli. Wow, that's a lot, I said when it finished. I took another deep breath and said, I want to be your captain, Tony, and your friend. One of the few things I know is that each love, each close relationship you have is different. New friends and lovers can't replace the ones who are gone, but they can help you through the grief. You don't have to trust all humans yet, and I wouldn't blame you for that. I can't promise that I won't hurt you by accident, but I can promise that I'll try never to do it intentionally. Neither of us is perfect, and I'm so very human. I patted her hand. Let's just take it a day at a time for now, okay?
Will you help me figure things out?
Tony said. I'll do my best, I said. I don't know everything, though. I suppose a lot of things we'll have to learn together,
Okay.
she said, then looked far away for a second,
Loki wants to talk to me.
said her voice in my head. All right, you talk with your brother, and I'll go talk to the others to let them know that we're okay. Tony nodded. We got up off the floor and headed to the galley, still holding hands. Chapter 53. Kia,
Will you be gone long, Kia?
asked the ancestor as I prepared to jump to Kahlo Station. I don't think so, ancestor. I suppose it will depend on the elders.
The Dark Mother has her own time, or so her priest always told me,
They said. I grinned. We have a similar saying about Allah on Earth,
Fascinating.
they said.
I would be interested in talking about that later.
Of course. I opened a channel to Frida. Hello, Frida. I'm ready to come over. Welcome to my station. It's an honor to have you here, Creator. Poe is waiting for you outside the Elder's room. Coordinates came with Frida's reply, and I picketed myself to where a slight person with a shaved head was standing in front of a set of double doors. They had a sense of calm about them that I'd only seen in imams and priests, but they seemed almost too young to have that kind of presence. You're over 500 years old, Kia, I thought to myself. Everyone looks young to you. Hello, they said. I know that Frida calls you the creator, but do you have a preference for what I should call you? They had bags under their eyes and looked as if they had been up all night. You can call me Kia, I said. Are you okay? I can come back later if you need to rest. They waved their hand. No, I'm good. Just a little tired, but I'll be fine. All right, Kia, this is how it usually works. I will sit in the roots of the elder trees and speak for the elders or spirits who come to see you. It's best for you, since you're an avatar, and do not to touch the roots as it could disrupt communication. Although, considering that part of you is elder, it might not be as much of a problem, but try not to touch them just in case. They paused, taking a breath. Whatever's said to you here will be kept confidential unless I feel that you are going to be a danger to yourself or others. We have several therapists stationed here now, so if you need a therapist to talk to, we can provide you with one. They grinned a little nervously, although I guess you might not need that. Depends on what the elders have to say, I said, smiling at them. Poe nodded. True. Shall we? I nodded. They palmed the door open and I followed them. They took off their shoes and I did the same, then took a look around. My mouth dropped open. 2/3 of the room was like an overgrown forest, with leaves, roots, and bark that came from several different species of trees from Earth. Poe climbed up to a root that looked like a park bench, and the leaves rustled as if a stiff wind had blown through the room. I knelt in front of the roots, careful not to touch them, in awe of what I was seeing. This is, I started to say, shaking my head. Poe was quiet for a moment, then said, The elders say they have been waiting for you. They suddenly looked confused. Is something wrong, Poe? I asked. All of them are here, Kia. I haven't dealt with all of them at once since the day I boarded their ship. Really? They nodded. Suddenly, without any warning, leaves and vines shot out of the canopy and enveloped Poe, leaving their head free and lifting them to their feet. A voice emerged from them that sounded like Poe, but with several other voices talking through them. Prophet, ask your questions quickly. Human bodies are fragile. They spoke, not in English, but in Arabic. Shocked, it took me a moment to ask, Why did you bring me back? You were, are, and will be needed. To sign a treaty? Talk to the ancestor? That's not a lot. You are not done, Prophet. There is more that you are uniquely suited to do. More that your children will need of you. I am not a prophet. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. I am just a woman. The elders laughed. Says the mother and grandmother of nations. Prophets never believe they are prophets in their own time. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I just did what was necessary. I'm no one special, and this isn't my time. I died over 500 years ago. Are you not? You are the creator of your AI children. You birthed a nation that chose to care for its people over greed and suffering and abuse. You are one of the greatest minds to come from Earth, Dr. Kia Hassan. Your work began with Trinity, but it is not finished. Your mind and vision is, and will save many. You have never sought reward for all that you have accomplished. Is that not the sign of a true prophet? I stared in shock, wide-eyed, hearing the words of the Quran thrown in my face. Then I began to wonder. From what the ancestor told me, the elders had spent millennia on their planet, just like the being that came to Earth, from what Jack and Loki had heard from Marcia. Are you Allah then? Is it you who influenced Muhammad and all the other prophets on Earth? There was a pause and another rustle of leaves. We exist in the uncertainty between wave and particle. Non-determinism and superposition is our fundamental nature. Our trees are the fractal prayers that connect the mundane and the ineffable. The leaves rustled again. To answer your question in any definitive way would cause the answer to collapse into falsehood. Meditate on this and gain enlightenment. The leaves and roots stilled, then gently removed themselves from around Poe's body, placing the human onto the bench once more. Poe groaned and clutched their head. Oh, are you all right? I asked, switching back to English and resisting the urge to step forward to help. They waved their hand. I think so. What happened? I remember coming into the room with you, but after that. They shook their head. You don't remember talking to me? I talked to you just now? I nodded. They wrapped you in leaves and vines, then talked through you. In Arabic. Their eyes went wide. They did? I don't even know Arabic. That's. They've never done that before. Did they answer your questions? I frowned, thinking of what the elders had told me. I don't know. Maybe? Poe shrugged. They tend to answer riddles more often than not. They were pretty direct for the most part, actually. It's given me a lot to think about. Poe nodded. Interesting. They're usually annoyingly cryptic, unless it's the dead that come to talk. Sometimes the dead are easier to deal with. They stood carefully and slowly made their way down from the roots. Once on the meadow floor again, they took a deep breath. Okay. They took another deep breath. I think I should go lie down. Their eyes rolled up, and I moved as fast as my avatar could to catch them before they hit the ground. Frida, post collapsed. I need the coordinates for medbay, I yelled. Instead of giving the coordinates, I felt a picket land on my shoulder, and suddenly we were there. Over here, said the nearest person in a white coat. I put Poe on the bio bed and stepped back to let them work. Another person picketed into the medbay. Poe! They exclaimed and went over to the bed. The doctor working on Poe turns towards them. David, I need you to back away for a moment, okay? I just started examining them. I'll let you know what's going on as soon as I do. They looked at me. Can you tell him what happened? I nodded. David, are you Poe's partner? I asked from the side of the room. David turned and came over to me. Yes, who are you? He blinked. Oh, wait, are you Kia? I nodded. Do you know what happened? Yes, the elders enveloped them in their vines when they were talking to me. Poe seemed fine, just really tired right after they finished, but then they fainted as soon as they came off the roots. I caught them as they fell, then Frida picketed us here.
David went wide-eyed.
That's new. The spirits just usually come and Poe speaks for them. I've seen them do it hundreds of times during treaty sessions.
He shook his head.
Then again, it didn't help that Nemetona decided to jump into our room in the middle of the night last night to talk to the elders. I tried to tell Poe to postpone your visit, but they wouldn't listen since it was you.
I frowned. I wouldn't have minded, honestly, although I should probably have a word with Nemetona about their behavior. David shook his head, staring at Poe, who was still unconscious.
No need, unless you want to. Frida already did so, and apparently she had a dressing down from her captain, too. She's been apologizing profusely ever since.
I grinned. Well, maybe I'll go see her anyway, just to see how she's doing. We were interrupted by the doctor coming over to us with a massive smile on their face.
Well, David, I think some congratulations are in order.
The doctor said.
What?
David said, looking confused. The mother I had been figured it out and smiled. The doctor took pity on him. They're okay, David, just exhausted. They grinned. And pregnant,
What? Seriously?
he said again, shocked.
We only decided to stop contraceptives a month ago.
I know, said the doctor.
But sometimes it's as quick as that. They should take the rest of the day off to rest, though. We've got them on an electrolyte drip for now, so since they were a little dehydrated, but they'll need a nutrition shake and a real meal once they wake up. I'm guessing they must have forgotten to eat this morning or just had something small before starting their day. Yeah,
David said, looking at me.
they were kind of nervous and didn't get much sleep. Said they weren't hungry when we had breakfast.
The doctor frowned.
All right, I'll give them the usual lecture about taking care of themselves when they wake up.
They poked David's shoulder.
But you, Captain, don't get all overprotective of them, okay? All you're gonna do is piss them off. And you,
They said, turning to me.
whoever you are, thanks for bringing them here safely.
They went back to Poe's bedside. David stared at the bed.
We talked about it, and it was so abstract, but I'm gonna be a dad!
He smiled. It was a smile I'd seen 1,000,000 times before. After the message from the elders, it felt good to witness a simple joy. Congratulations, Captain, I said. I'll second what the doctor said about not hovering. My husband did that the first time I was pregnant. It drove me mad. I patted his arm. I know, you won't be able to help it, but just know you're not the first to become a parent, and certainly not the last. I am surprised you two decided for a physical pregnancy, though. Most non-binary folks don't.
It was Poe's idea, actually. The death of the first inhabitants of the station was hard on them, and reading between the lines, I think Poe needs to feel like they have control of their own life, including having children. I also think they don't want to feel separate from their children because they spent so much time alone.
He shrugged.
I just want to have a family with them, no matter how we have our children. Frida's so excited.
He had a faraway look for a moment.
Oh, Rob, I need to get back to my meeting and let them know what's going on.
He started to run up the room, then turned back and hugged me.
I'm gonna be a dad.
He exclaimed again, and ran out of the room. The nearby staff chuckled. I smiled. David reminded me so much of Josh and all the children and grandchildren we brought into the universe. It also reminded me of when Nigel joked that Josh and I were trying to populate survey all by ourselves. Mother and grandmother of nations, the elders had said. I didn't understand all of what the beings had told me, but thinking about Nemetona, I realized that some of my AI children still needed their mother. Epilogue. Man, the door to the hotel bedroom opened, and a man and a woman came in giggling. The man kicked the door closed while kissing the woman and pulling off his suit jacket. The woman kicked off her shoes and led the man by the mouth to the bed. They fell onto it and kissed some more, pulling off clothing as they did so. Eventually, she sat up, straddling the man. "Ooh, champagne and strawberries!" she squealed, reaching over for one of the strawberries in the bowl on the nightstand. "That's so sweet!"
Well, this is a five-star hotel, and this is the penthouse. They always have them when I come here.
The man said, putting his hands on the woman's hips.
Now, where were we?
The woman giggled again. Instead of answering, she started to suggestively lick the strawberry and grind her hips against the man's. The man began to moan. The woman put the strawberry between her teeth, artfully finished undressing the man, then lifted her dress. She lowered herself onto him slowly and started grinding again, leaning over to feed the man the strawberry while she did so. There was giggling, messy kissing, and chewing of the fruit while they brought each other to climax. The man groaned and the woman screamed, then they fell into each other's arms, panting. I stood up and went over to the bed. "Thank you, Anita. Good work," I said. Anita rolled off the man, smiled wickedly, licked the messy strawberry pulp from her lips, grabbed the bottle of champagne, and left the room.
What the hell is this?
Said the naked man on the bed.
Wait, why can't I move?
His eyes moved rapidly around the room as he began to panic. I looked down at him. "It's because you have been poisoned, Kevin Mew,"
What?
he slurred, sounding as if he'd just come from the dentist. I clasped my black-gloved hands in front of me. "Do you remember, about 5 months ago when your people kidnapped an AI avatar and had it dissected by your scientists? Do you remember when the building was moved to the Sahara Desert, then nuked from orbit by the AI you stole the avatar from?" Kevin tried to speak but couldn't do more than grunt. I smiled. "I thought you'd remember that. You see, I'm from Survey Intelligence. I was the one that had your lab moved and destroyed. I saw what you did to the Avatar. Quite disgusting, if you ask me. After that incident, I started looking into Mutech and got depositions from the former employees we relocated to survey space. They were quite willing to talk about you and your operations here on Earth once they realized they no longer were dependent on the pitiful salaries you gave them. It seems that you steal a lot of things besides salaries, Kevin, then sell them on the black market for extortionate prices." I tisked. Kevin moaned again, his eyes wide. "Oh, good. The paralytic is taking full effect. You still have some time before the other part of the poison kicks in." The man started to panic more. His eyes moved from side to side rapidly. He was still trying to force his body to move. "Anyway, it took us a while to get to you because, well, we really dug deep into Mutech's assets and subsidiaries," I said. "Imagine our surprise when we found evidence that you, as CEO, had been trafficking people of color from Earth as slaves to New Harmonists. You even sent a ship full of people to New Harmony itself." I shook my head. "Oh, you covered it up quickly after our agent dispatched their leaders on the planet, and our other operative took care of your contacts at Unity Hub. I'm sure you can imagine our greater surprise that you were still sending slaves to New York Colony. Lucky for them, we took over operations there and got them to safety while making sure that you didn't suspect a thing. I'm quite proud of my agents for that." Kevin could only glare at me now, his breathing becoming shallower. He blinked slowly, trying to stay awake. I sighed as I watched him. "Now, I wanted to slit your throat, break your limbs, that sort of thing.
since I can't abide slavers, but my superiors suggested that we handle things quietly. Slightly disappointing, but it did allow me to put my poison skills to work. As it happens, I'm a rather good chemist and know how to combine chemicals in just the right way for best effect. Quite like this one. It gives me time to arrange things so that those who find you won't suspect anything other than a heart attack after fucking a beautiful woman. I shook my head. In your great Kevin Mew, you forgot the most important rule in the galaxy. I leaned over and whispered, "Don't fuck with survey." Kevin closed his eyes, let out a breath, then stopped breathing altogether. I picked up the leather tote bag that was on the other side of the nightstand, pulled out some wipes, and cleaned up his face and mouth, dropping the used wipes in the bag. I also took the bowl of strawberries. Then I held out my hand and ordered the nanopicket that had been recording the whole scene to return. Put that in the bag as well, then turned and left the room. Anita was still sitting in the sitting area, still naked, drinking the champagne. "Shame, he was a pretty good fuck," she said. "Yes, well, I find a lot of these assholes like sex a lot and are usually good at it. It's just one of the ways they use people." Anita laughed. "That's true. What do you think? Another hour before I start the dramatics?" "Yes, that sounds right. Do make sure you cooperate fully with the authorities," I said. "Yes, ma'am," she said, and poured herself some more champagne. I left the suite, peeling off my gloves in the hallway. When I exited the hotel from the employee entrance, I took the picket from my bag and used my bots to turn on its dictation function. "Hello, Nemetona. I told you I would take care of this personally. Please let me know how you're doing. Do come for tea next time you come to Earth." I saved the message, then held out the picket on my palm. It rose into the air after I gave it its destination, then shot up into the sky. I smiled and disappeared into the warm California night. Captain Elena, approximately 20 years later. "Are the 0 days festivities all lined up? Please tell me Marco has it all under control." Dana nodded. "All you have to do now is show up at the ball lighting and you're done for the day. Christoph was on the committee, so he made sure to arrange that for you. I think Annabelle may have also bribed Marco with a keg of flat space." I laughed. "Of course she would. That's why I love her." I put my tablet down and rubbed my temples. "Anything else we need to talk about?" "Nothing." They paused. Hello?" I looked up from my tablet, and there was a young person in the doorway holding a picnic basket. They seemed familiar, but I couldn't place them. "Lucifer?" I asked in my head. "They are from the Lazarus Society, Al. Interesting. People from that group don't normally stray too far from their collective," he replied in my head. "Huh." Out loud, I asked, "Hello, what can I do for you?" "Grandma says you need to come with me to the Grove. She made me get food and everything." "Your grandma?" "Yep. She said, 'Joseph, you go and get a picnic basket together and tell the captain to come see me in the Grove.' So I did what she said." Joseph shrugged. "I don't know why, Captain. It's got to be important, though. Grandma doesn't tell us to do stuff without reason." "He's not wrong, El. Any time a sibling or one of our humans has been sought out by a Lazarus Society person, they've received valuable information, which we know comes from the elders," Lucifer said in my head. "It's how we got the information to defeat chaos." I felt my eyes widen at a bit of that knowledge. In my head, I said, "Why didn't you tell me that when chaos was going on?" I felt the equivalent of a mental shrug from Lucy. "At the time, it was need to know. Most of the information about chaos was strictly classified by Sunny for the first couple of years. It's been over 20 years since the operation, and we no longer have to worry about leaks. The elders were also the ones that gave the scientist at A4413 the key to treatment for the bacterial virus. Oh, that's right. Loki and Jack got that from the group of elders in the consortium. I wonder what they want with me then. I don't know, El, said Lucifer. Why don't you go find out? Dana cleared their throat, then pointed their chin at the kid in the doorway. Sorry about that, Joseph. I was talking to Lucifer, I said.
That's okay. Grandma gets the same look when she's talking to the spirits.
Dana's eyebrows went up. I was skeptical too, but who was I to disparage a person's spiritual path? All right, Joseph, since you have the basket in hand, I am assuming you'd like me to come with you now?
Yes, sir.
I sighed. All right, Dana, clear my schedule for the rest of the day.
No worries. We'd gone over pretty much all of what was important anyway.
They said. I was so glad I had chosen such a competent executive officer. Right then, I said, standing. Lean on, Joseph. He smiled, turned, and led me to the nearest lift. The Lazarus Grove was on the far side of the university farm area, in the back of the experimental forest preserve. I never really thought about the Lazarus folks or their grove before, since they always kept to themselves. When I asked Lucifer about their history while I followed Joseph, they said that they showed up shortly after reconnecting with Earth. They never outright asked me to create a grove, they said. They just started planting trees, and once I gave them permission to live here. The trees weren't harming anyone, and the Lazarus people seemed to just fit in with our community. In fact, none of their people have ever reached out to a captain of mine directly until now. Interesting, I replied. And they've basically been reclusive this whole time? Not entirely. They participate in the community, but they have their own religious rituals that they rarely allow outsiders to see. Joseph led me through a thick stand of trees that, after a couple of meters, opened up into a large grassy circle. Most of it looked as if it was left to grow naturally, but there was one wide area that was trimmed into a smaller circle, with a pavilion at one end that had a long table and a variety of chairs and benches. The kid led me to the pavilion and put the basket on the table.
It's okay, Captain. You can sit down. Grandma will be here soon.
Joseph said. He opened the basket, then started setting the table for two. There was a container of some sort of drink, a bundt cake, along with plates, forks, and glasses. When he was done unloading the basket, I heard a rustling behind me.
Grandma!
Joseph yelled and ran past where I was sitting. I stood up and turned to see an old woman with steel-colored hair wearing a white shirt and a long dark brown skirt hugging her grandchild. She must have been in her hundreds, as her skin was slightly ashen and wrinkled. There was another person with her, holding her arm gently as if not to break her. The grandmother's escort talked quietly to Joseph, then led the child away. I rose to go over to where the old woman was in order to help her, but she held up a hand and waved me away.
They think because I'm 120 I can't walk by myself anymore. Ah, even Lucifer knows that my last checkup at the doctor's was perfectly fine.
She said as she made her way to the cushioned chair that Joseph had set for her.
Doesn't mean I don't prefer a comfortable chair, though.
She winked at me as she sat down.
Come on now, sit and let this old granny cut you some nut cake.
I did as she asked, not really sure what to say to her. Lucifer sent reassurance. The old woman cut two slices of the cake, put them in our plates, then poured a yellow liquid from the container. I smiled as the lemony smell hit my nose. Granny laughed.
Little bird told me you like lemonade. Come on, eat up. It's not every day I make my nut cake, you know.
I took a bite of cake, which had a nutty caramel flavor, and washed it down with lemonade. Oh, that's lovely, I blurted out. I'm glad, she said, patting my hand. She ate some of her own slice of cake, nodding her head. Yes, that's not too bad. Can't get the actual nuts from Earth, but our little grove here does pretty well. Is there really a difference? Granny looked thoughtful for a moment. Well, to some degree, yes. There's specific properties of the soil and water on Earth that you can't really replicate on ships. Those properties give a slightly different flavor to flour and nuts. It's like sourdough bread. My great grandma would always say the best sourdough came from San Francisco, even though she made us sourdough bread all the time. That was incredible. She said it had something to do with the composition of the water. She shrugged. I also think it has to do with the spirit of a place, too, but, well, I'm an old magic worker, so. Magic worker? She laughed again. Oh, I'm sure your metal friend told you that we practice some old religious stuff. I know you're not too sure about it all, like many survey folks, but I think Lucifer knows that it's how we communicate with the elders. Of course, my line didn't call them elders until now. We knew that these spirits that we were talking to us were special. We could feel it. The stories say that in the old swamps in Louisiana, there's a place that most folks didn't go because it drove people mad. It all made sense when we finally heard the stories from the consortium. The spirits were the ones that taught us the rituals, though, and those rituals always work. She took another bite of cake, chewed thoughtfully, then sipped some of the lemonade. But I didn't ask you here to talk about the Lazarus Society. Oh, right, I said, a little disappointed, because the old woman and her story was fascinating. I found myself wanting to know more about her stories from Earth. I sipped my lemonade. So why did you ask me here? She put down her fork and wiped her mouth with a napkin. That ship you sent to Andromeda, Mercury, is in trouble. Messages we're getting from the Grove there aren't very clear since it's just the way that it works. But the consistent messaging we're getting is that something is wrong or broken. They're sitting in the dark. They are alive, but there's a sense of urgency and need to the sending. I stared at her. How did she know? Lucifer asked. What? I said to both of them. Mer- Mercury sends an update picket once a year, once they receive the ancestor upgraded pickets. This year's picket should have arrived by now, Lucifer said out loud. The siblings were just about to discuss what to do. There's no need for discussion. You know who to send, my AI friend, Granny said. Loki and Nemetona are the only ships who can get there quickly. They also have a seed from the elders that needs to go with them. The answer will be in the physics. She finished off her cake and lemonade, then started packing up the basket. You finish that while I clean up, dear. I did as I was told. How did she know about Nemetona? I asked Lucifer mentally. Loki's pretty well known, but we've kept Nemetona's situation quiet, especially after the Earth incident. Sure, there's lots of rumors, but Sunny's people have been pretty ruthless about keeping her abilities a secret. Only the AIs and captains really know. Interesting that we still haven't had any takers on our upgrades. There are some considering it, but they also know Nemetona's story, replied Lucifer. What I've been told by most of the younger siblings is that they don't want to risk harming the captains or crews. More of them are thinking about submarine children, though, after Loki and Jack created several of their own. It seems that we, too, have a wish to procreate. Lucifer paused. We're getting sidetracked, Elle. She's right. We need to recall them if Mercury is in trouble or worse, dead. They will be the only ones that can get to them quickly. Even with their enhanced drives, it will take them nearly 2 years to get there. I nodded, eating the last bite of cake and drinking the last of my lemonade. Granny took the plate and cup immediately, but then handed me the cake box. Here, you take the rest of this for your partners, all right? I'm sure I've given you enough to think about for one day. She stood up, and Joseph appeared out of nowhere. Granny handed him the basket. Take that to the recycler, child. I'll be right behind you.
Yes, Grandma.
He said, and ran off. Oh, she said, looking up as if looking at the AI's core. Lucifer, your siblings need to tell Nemetona she's forgiven. She stayed in the consortium all this time because she thinks you all hate her for what happened to JD and Eli. Children need to know that they're still loved after they go through trauma, especially the neurodivergent ones. And it's important to actually tell them explicitly. You've lived with humans long enough to know better. Might want to consider saying it to Loki, too. None of what happened to either of them was their fault. She then took my hand. I could say many things to you, but I think you know what to do with your life without my help. If you have more questions, let me know. I'll relay what I can. She let go of my hand and walked across the clearing to the trees beyond. Lucifer? I asked out loud, coloring it in my head with concern. Yes, Al. I think we need to bring everyone to First Hub, I said. Yes, and I've already sent the modified pickets to Loki and Nemetona. Without talking to the other siblings? She said they've been sitting in the dark. If they're in darkness, that means something catastrophic has happened to both Mercury and the autonomic functions. Time is of the essence. The autonomic functions should still work, if it's just the higher order functions that are affected, like rotation. But it does take a certain level of our consciousness to ensure that the printers, recyclers, and waste disposal all work. You humans are programmed to survive anything, but even your body has limits. Alright, Lucy, let's get to First Hub. We're on our way. I've already broken the news to the survey department. I winced, stood, and made my way out of the grove to the nearest lift. I'll go soothe the ruffled feathers. Thank you, Ed, Lucifer said. I got in the lift, then said, Have you all really not forgiven Nemetona? I. Lucifer paused. I am unsure. I thought I had nothing to forgive. That it was only Sunny that really had any issue with her. But maybe she doesn't know that. It's one thing to think it, Lucifer, but it's another thing to actually tell them directly. I thought for a moment. Listen, some humans need the confirmation verbally that you're not mad at them. Maybe Nemetona needs to hear it directly from you and the other siblings, not just Sunny. She won't just assume you're all okay with her just because things turned out all right in the end, I said. In my head, I added, Remember what happened with Secundus and Loki? It took Loki nearly 500 years to come back just because he thought all of you were mad at him because Secundus was. Lucifer didn't reply, but sent wordless understanding tinged with worry. I get it, my friend, I said, and headed to my office to get back to work. The end. You have been listening to Tales from Flat Space. If you want to support me and my writing, there are several ways to do it. Share this podcast, find me on Twitch, or subscribe to my website, ljspencer.ie. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.